What's going on, everyone? So one of the players that made a ton of sense for the Lakers this past offseason was De'Anthony Melton. Now, he ended up signing with the Golden State Warriors because Lakers just didn't have any roster spots and to sign anybody, right? And so they ended up missing out on De'Anthony Melton. But he was a guy that made a ton of sense, like a legit two-way guard that can defend, is athletic, right? Can score, play make, hit the three ball at an efficient clip, right? But he's known more as like that defensive guard. Right, a guy that can defend multiple positions and really just kind of be that pest on the defensive side of the ball, right? He goes to Golden State, and unfortunately, he was looking great for Golden State. He was really playing the role nicely. Warriors were looking fantastic, right? And then he ended up tearing his ACL, ended up missing the entirety of the season. He only played 6 games for the Golden State Warriors, which, you know, in those 6 games, he was, again, solid, right? He was very good. Like, it was like, hey, that's a piece that we could have had. Now, here's the thing, right? ACL tears. It was a partial ACL tear, so it wasn't a full tear. A full tear usually takes about, roughly a year to recoup from, right? So by the time we get into the full offseason and all that stuff, he should be able to start to ramp up. I'm sure we'll start getting some information on him. But here's the thing. He is more likely than not going to have to take a vet minimum deal because teams are going to want to see him prove it, right? You tore your ACL. It's not what it used to be, like 15 years ago. That was essentially the end of your career. Now it's pretty common, right? Like now, technology and medicine and, surgeons and all that stuff can kind of sew it up and you're good, right? Like everything's fine. You see lots of guys come back from ACL tears, right? And he's a guy that is more of a role player, right? It shouldn't hamper what he's able to do and capable of doing. And if he's able to kind of play the role that he has built a career on, he makes all the sense in the world for the Lakers, right? Again, a guy, he's 6'4", right? 205 pounds, 200 pounds, right? But again, that defensive 3-and-D guard that you could bring off the bench, you could start on occasion, right? And because he is a guy that is suffering an injury, which you hate to see, you never want to see it, but Lakers are a great place to prove it, right? Like you see players all the time come to the Lakers on prove it deals, right? So that way they can get the spotlight and the recognition, right? De'Anthony Melton just goes to, Milwaukee or something. He's probably fading into oblivion at some point, right? Especially on a vet minimum. He goes to the Lakers and he's a huge impact guy, right? He was really getting some shine with the Golden State Warriors because it's the Warriors. You got Steph and, Golden State, and they're trying to contend for a championship and all this stuff. And it was like, he was getting the recognition. Well, if you go to the Lakers, you're going to get a lot of that same recognition. And he's not going to cost the $12 million that he was due. And he's a free agent. So he had $12 million. It's why the Golden State Warriors traded him to the Brooklyn Nets in the Dennis Schroeder deal, right? Because the Brooklyn Nets were that was at the time when they were trying to take a bunch of expiring contracts, why the Lakers were able to trade D'Angelo Russell there, right? And Brooklyn, they weren't trying to win anything, so they were more than happy to take De'Anthony Melton for, a season on expiring deal and get some assets and stuff in return for Dennis Schroeder, right? Clear the deck, clear some salary cap, and then also got some assets. So, for Golden State, right, they needed to replace him. Obviously, the Dennis Schroeder situation didn't work out. He ends up getting traded again. But, for the Lakers, again, you're looking at a guy who is going to need that prove-it deal. He's going to need to come in on a vet minimum contract. And those are the kind of things that the Lakers are going to have to find, right? They're not flushed with LeBron James could retire this season, and the Lakers would only have, I think it's like $16 million in contract space. So you need to find those diamond in the roughs. You need to find those guys that need to prove it, right? That fit a role, that fit a need, and can come in and be like, hey, I'm willing to play for the vet minimum for you, so in the hopes to get a bigger contract elsewhere, right? And that's what I think you might be able to get with a Melton. So to kind of give you an idea, again, it's a 6-game sample size, so we'll kind of go over what he did with the Warriors, and then we'll talk about the previous years. But 6 games for the Warriors, 2 games started. He averaged 20.2 minutes per game. Field goal percentage on 9 attempts of 40.7%. 3-point range, right? He shot 5.8 3-point attempts and shot 37.1%. From 3-point range. He is a career 37% 3-point shooter on 4 attempts. So it's the kind of guy you need alongside Luka and LeBron. 2-point range, he shot 47.4% on 3.2 attempts and had an EFG of 52.8%. Free throw shooting was actually down. He is a career 78% free throw shooter, but he was down to 62.5%, which was not great. It was the lowest of his career by like a large margin, by like 10%. So he's usually been around, like you look at the previous year with Philadelphia, he shot 83.5% on 2.1 attempts. Now it's a 6-game sample size, so, take it either way. I imagine that probably would have gone up at some point, but as far as rebounds go, 3.3 rebounds, 3 assists, 1.5 steals per game. He's a career 1.4 steal per game guy. Again, this is a guy that's built a reputation on the defensive side of things, being that two-way 3-and-D style guard, half a block, and then 10.3 points per game. Now you look at his per 36. Per 36 doesn't tell you everything. Kind of gives you an idea of what he would have been able to provide had he played, full-time starter minutes as well as, more time with the Warriors. With the Warriors, he would have averaged 18.4 points. He would have averaged 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and a block per game. So he would have been an 18, 6, and 5 guy for the Warriors. Now, I don't really expect him to be that in a full-time role, especially after the ACL tear, but no, if he could give you the production that you saw with the Warriors, literally, if he just came in, gave you 10 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists off the bench while shooting 37, 38% from 3-point range, that's perfect, right? So let's look at the previous year. Oh, and also I should mention he's 26 years old. So he's still young, still plenty of upside, still plenty of opportunity for growth and, him to just continue to progress and be better. Also, it's worth, because I know people are going to be like, well, Lakers are taking an injury-prone guy. Like, not injury-prone. It's just he had an unfortunate incident, which sucks. You look at, he played 77 games, 73 games, 52 games, 60 games, 50 games, right? Like, so again, it's not an injury-prone thing. It's just, it was an unfortunate incident. Also, the Lakers medical staff is probably one of, if not the best in the NBA now. I mean, look how healthy the Lakers were, knock on wood, for the most part all season, right? Most of the injuries that happened were from the previous regime, right? Gabe Vincent, Jared Vanderbilt, and they came back and they were healthy, right? You remember last year they came back and they got hurt again, right? So Lakers revamped their entire health and fitness and training staff, right? So I do think De'Anthony Melton, Lakers are probably one of the best organizations as far as like him trying to get back to being the player that he was, right? Talk about a real athlete, which is what the Lakers need. Athleticism, defense out on the perimeter, hustle, energy, effort, can knock down the 3 ball. He's a guy that can give you a little bit of everything. But you look at Philadelphia, right? 2 years with Philadelphia. He averaged 27 minutes per game and then 28 minutes per game. He shot 9.5 attempts and 8.5 attempts. He shot from 3-point range both years on 5.6 attempts and 5.2 attempts. 36% and then 39%. 2-point range, he shot 42.5% and 48.4%. EFG is a 49.3 and 54.6. He previous year shot 83.5% on 2.1 attempts from the free throw line, and then 79% on 1.1 attempts, averaged just under 4 rebounds and then 4.1 rebounds, 3 assists both years, 1.6 steals on the dot both of those years with Philadelphia, half a block almost on the dot. I mean, he's a career half a block guy. Right. 11.1 points and 10.1 points. So he's a guy that is basically, again, for his career, he's a 9, 3, and 3 guy. Right. So for a guy off the bench that is going to be dirt cheap because, again, he's coming off an ACL tear, so he's going to need to prove it. He's not going to get his $12 million or whatever. So for the Lakers, I think that's a great opportunity. I think it's a great low risk, high reward type thing where worst case scenario, he becomes your 15th guy, or you sign him to like a non-guaranteed deal or something like that, to where it's like, hey, if you get hurt again, as long as you don't get hurt again, we'll keep you. But if you suffer a significant injury again, then that's why we want the non-guaranteed, so we can waive you, right? But He's a guy that makes all the sense in the world for the Lakers. He's a guy that the Lakers desperately needed all year long. He would have been fantastic, for these matchups. He's another guy you could have thrown on Anthony Edwards, or, thrown on Dante DiVincenzo, or thrown on Mike Conley in this matchup, and then also could have knocked down the three ball, right? Been an impact guy. He's a guy that's had great games, great moments, big plays for Philadelphia. And then you saw with Golden State. Like I said, it was a small sample size with Golden State, unfortunately. But he's a guy that was really, it was a real difference maker for Golden State early on. And then you saw once he left, they really started to struggle and hurt because he was kind of like their point of attack. He was their defensive guy off the bench. And then even in starting, he started a third of the games. Right. So they realized hey, maybe we should probably start this guy. Remember? And then Pod was coming off the bench at that point, and, and Melton was great in those stints. But unfortunately, he suffered the injury where I think now he should be right. He should be healthy, right? At least working towards it. Bring him on a vet minimum, prove it deal, right? I would love if you can do a team option, right, type thing. I don't know if he would sign something like that, because if he does have a great season, he's probably going to want money elsewhere. But maybe you can work something out to where it's like, hey, don't give a player option, please. But if you can do like a team option thing so you have control, or just, again, a 1-year deal on a vet minimum contract, I think that'd be great. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? If you what are your thoughts? Do you agree with me? Disagree with me? Kind of mixed in the middle? Have you feel? Either way, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.